edges of the road, as if forcing back the human intrusion. A low fence of pine logs zigzagged into the parking lot. Milly pulled in, taking care to stop between the white lines in the almost empty lot. Before Milly had time to turn the engine off, Harper bounced out of the car and headed towards the silver four-wheel drive, parked 3 spaces away. She watched her friend bound over to Judith and pull her into a quick hug. Judith's arms came up, but didn't quite make it around Harper's back. She hesitated just long enough for Harper to let her loose and turn her attention to the man standing at the rear of the vehicle. Milly could hear Harper say something, but her attention was fixed on Judith. It had been 3 months since their mother's funeral. They'd barely spoken at the chapel. Sitting on the same bench separated by their cousin and his wife, Milly snatched glimpses of her sister as Mum's coffin began its descent to the crematorium. Only once did Judith look away and meet Milly's gaze. For a moment, her sister's eyes held a look of anguish and desperation. Milly wanted to put her arms around her and make everything better. Then Judith straightened her back and clenched her jaw. She turned away, and the moment vanished. Now Judith regarded her with the same clenched jaw and accusing glare. Milly lifted her hand in a wave that felt stiff and awkward. The wind ruffled Judith's brown hair. She raised her hand in what might have been a greeting, but turned into an attempt to push her fringe out of her eyes. "This is going to be a long 2 days," Milly sighed, and climbed out of the car. "I'm Lucas Word, a friend of Judith's. She's asked me to lead the hike." "I'm Milly. I see you've met Harper." Milly grasped the man's hand, grateful that he'd stepped forward and bridged the uncomfortable silence between her and Judith. "I was just telling Lucas that you and Judith haven't really spoken in years, not since you were both teenagers. So," Harper drew out the word, "this might be the most tortuous hiking group he's ever led?" Harper's words hung in the air. Milly felt the knot in her stomach twist into full-blown anxiety. Why did I agree to this? She asked herself, and not for the first time. Guilt? Loneliness? She wanted to look at her sister and see how the moment was affecting her, but she couldn't bear to meet Judith's gaze. She found her eyes darting everywhere but at the one person she'd driven 3 hours to see. "What's all the rope for?" Her focus landed on the pile of equipment heaped on the bitumen near the rear of the car. "We're going to do a bit of abseiling." It was the first time Judith had spoken since Milly and Harper arrived. Milly forced herself to meet her sister's gaze. Judith's blue eyes were shiny, as if filled with unshed tears. There were tiny lines creasing her forehead, and the softness Milly remembered seemed absent from her face. Although it had been only 3 months since the funeral, it had been almost 10 years since she'd really looked at her sister. The changes were unsettling. "Judith, Hi. Something flickered across Judith's face. It could have been the beginnings of a smile, but the look vanished and Judith turned to Lucas. "When everything's ready, we should get going. It's almost 10. She moved to the back of the vehicle, pulled a large red pack out, and dropped it on the ground. "If you need to use the loo, the toilet block's over there." She jerked her head towards a squat brick building in the left-hand corner of the sandy car park. "Okay, after that heartwarming reunion, I need to pee." Harper headed for the toilet block. Milly followed her friend. Harper jogged across the bitumen, her long blonde ponytail bouncing up and down on her shoulders. Milly didn't bother to try to keep pace. She walked slowly, relishing a few moments away from the painful exchange with her baby sister. Agreeing to this trip had been a mistake from the beginning. What was I thinking? It seemed like a great idea via email, with thousands of kilometres separating them. In person, nothing had changed. They were both still angry and hurt. This trip might only make it worse. Milly stepped into the toilet block. The floor was a faded grey concrete slab and the walls exposed brick. A building typical of bland, functional, Australian beachside conveniences. She could have been standing in any such block on any beach in the country. "Harper?" Milly crossed over the overly spacious room and stood in front of the closed stall door. "I wish you'd just tone it down a bit. It's difficult and..."